This is David from ComalaTech, and I'm going to demonstrate how the new version of the Approvals Workflow plugin enables Confluence to be used as a workflow tracking tool. We are going to use as an example the development of a software feature. A workflow has already been defined using the plugin, which will track approvals from draft to requirement to design review to implementation and finally completion. We are going to start by creating a new page for the new feature. It will show the feature's objective and high-level requirements. A description of the project is added into the wiki markup and then saved. We then select the stakeholders of the project. The project manager is selected, the architect is selected, the development team chosen, and the QA selected. At any time, we can look where our feature is in the lifecycle, and we can see the approval information for each state. The project manager adds his approval, and now the state has moved from draft to requirement. Now let's switch to the architect. The architect will update the requirement by adding a graphic. A file is chosen, and then attached. Selecting View returns us to the approval process, where the architect edits the page by adding to the wiki markup code to show the new graphic. Changes are saved, and the graphic appears. Now it's time for the architect to add his approval to this stage of the workflow. Now let's switch back to the project manager. He approves the architect's changes, and now we can see that the feature has progressed to the design review stage. By hovering over each stage, we can see approval details. Now let's switch to the developer. The developer edits the wiki markup to add specifications, saves the changes, and now the feature is updated again. Now it's time for the developer to add his approval. Information is provided on the approvals required to move the feature forward. Approval is required from the other developer, who we will switch to now. In this example, the second developer and the architect are the same person, and so he needs to give approvals on behalf of both of his roles, which he does here. The state of the feature is now at implementation. By clicking on the state link, you are presented with different charts. Click once for state and approval history. Click again for current path and process. Now the developer adds his approval to this stage. Let's switch now to the QA. The QA adds his approval, and now the state of the software feature is completed, and the approvals process has reached its goal. Before the approvals plugin can function as you have seen, the workflow must first be created. The workflow has been defined using a simple set of the plugin's macros. These macros define the name of each state, the approval required, and who needs to approve the state. In this case, we had draft, requirement, design review, implementation, and completed. Once the markup has been saved, you see the workflow view. By clicking on View Chart, you can see the current path and process chart and verify that the workflow is correct. You can also define actions as part of the workflow, such as email notification, page restrictions, and label manipulation. The workflow has to be defined only once, and we define in what spaces it should be applied. You can learn more about the Approvals Workflow plugin at ComalaTech.com.